is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make these fringed bracelets with the amber and aqua and the sapphire and champagne treasure bags. However, I have made them in a few other options so that if you didn't get the bag, you can still do this. You can do this with any beads that you would like, and I will go through the options during the tutorial so you can see. Now I'm not getting these all laid out all beautiful, but I want you to see that there are other options that you can do this with. I used a drop for this one, a top drill drop. It's a little large of a drop, but it really looks pretty on. I'll show you what it looks like. So not only can you do this with the beads in the treasure bag, you can do this with beads in your stash. It's a technique that will work with all kinds of stuff. And like I said, I will discuss that in the next portion. Let me see if I can get this bracelet on here. And that's what that looks like on, and it's really pretty. I'll put this purple one on, and then I'll put one of the others on so you can see what they look like. And we will just go into the tutorial. So I have a bunch of different beads on the website that will work with this. I do have some of these amber and aqua beads left. I just don't have any of the petal beads. So let me put on one of these bracelets so you can see what they look like, and then we will go into the next section here and see what it takes to make these and go from there. And of course this one I'm trying to use my left hand to put it on with, so I can't do it. Anyway, I'm just gonna lay it on my wrist so you can see it. This is what they look like, and they're really pretty. They're bobbly looking, just really pretty bracelets. And you can see you can do it in all kinds of different ways, so you're not stuck with one colorway, you're not stuck with one type of bead. You can make a million different bracelets with this and they'll all look different. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this project. Okay, for this project today, we are going to be making a bracelet basically from the base that we made in these bracelets in the previous tutorial. So we're going to be using the amber and aqua or the sapphire and champagne treasure bags for this. However, I will show you alternatives. I have made several others with other beads, same process that you can do this with. If you don't have the treasure bag, all these beads are available on my website, or you can use something in your stash. It's a very, very adaptable design, so you are not left out if you do not have a treasure bag. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using for the tutorial today, and this is from the sapphire bag. However, I will also tell you exactly what I used in the amber bag. So you are going to need an 8/0 seed bead and an 11/0 seed bead in the Toho line. Actually, two 8/0s. So you're going to have two different colors of 8/0s, and I have for the sapphire bag a frosted indigo and a galvanized permanent finish starlight in my 8/0s. In my aqua one, I used the galvanized permanent finish starlight, and I used a turquoise, opaque turquoise 8/0, so you can see in here. And then you're going to be using the cat's eye beads that came in your bag. These are 4 to 5 millimeters. The sapphire seems to be a little bit bigger than the aqua one even, and they're kind of irregular. So you'll have to go through, just choose the smaller ones and choose ones that are not misshapen or irregular in any way. Now I have a bunch of these left over in both the aqua and the sapphire, and I'm going to put them at a very discounted price because of the irregularities, and you can get some if you would like them. They are very pretty beads, they're just a little irregular. So then what we're going to be using from either the sapphire or the aqua bag, you're going to be using the little petal beads that are in your bag. And these are little gold flecked or gold spray painted little petal glass beads, and you have them in both treasure bags in gold. So we'll be using those. We'll also be using one of the toggle clasps from the bags. Of course, you can use any clasping that you would like. We're going to be using 2 wire guardians, and these are small, size 1 wire guardians. As you can see, they're horseshoe shaped with a little tube on either side and a divot in the top of the horseshoe to hold your thread. We're going to be using 2 of those. We will also need a couple jump rings to attach our clasping, and then we will need a size 12 beading needle, and I'm using 6-pound Fireline, and I'm using the ice Fireline. You can use whatever Fireline you have on hand as long as it's 6-pound and no bigger, because 6-pound is going to go through these beads very nicely. You can use 8 or 10-pound nanofill also. Now, I have done alternative beads so that if you do not have the treasure bag, you can see what I've got here. I did it with a drop. This is kind of a big drop for this bracelet, but it really looks pretty, and I'll put them on so that you can see them, or I'll do it in the introduction. And they're really pretty. I have little packages of 20 of them if you want them, or you can use a smaller drop. This is a top drilled drop, so you can use that as an alternative to your leaf beads, and I will show you how to use it. Or you can use these English cut beads, and you do have some English cut beads 6mm round in your bags. You have it in aqua or you have it in sapphire, and you can use those very easily. Or I have these new little marbled colored ones that I've used in this particular sample, and I've used a 4mm round pearl. And this one I used a 4mm round in the cat's eye in white. So you can see that you can use anything in your stash that you want. You could even use a bicone and put it on the same way I will show you how to put on these 6mm rounds. So there are lots of alternatives to make this, and like I said, I will show you how to put the different beads on in the process here so that you are not left out whatsoever. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, to start this project, put about 4.5 to 5 feet of thread onto your needle, and you will need to extend during this project, so I will put a link for a video that will show you how to do that in the description box beneath the video player if you do not know how. So what we're going to do is just grab a random bead, and we're going to put a stop bead on the end of our thread. So I've got this little 4mm round pearl, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the end of my thread, leaving a couple of inches so that I can tie a knot with it. And then I'm going to go back through from the tail side into the bead. Whoops. Perhaps. Just go back into the bead, just like this, and then pull your thread through, pull on the tail, pull on the working thread, and now you have a stop bead on your thread. And then you're going to begin picking up 70 8/0 seed beads onto your bracelet, just like we did for these bracelets in the previous tutorial. I was making the base for this bracelet when I decided that it would make a pretty bracelet. So it's the exact same thing. You're going to pick up 70 of these 8/0 seed beads, and then we will be back. So just begin picking them up, dropping them to the end. When you have 70, we shall get started. Okay, so now I have my 70 beads, and once you have put your beads on, go ahead and count them again on your thread like this: 2, 4, 6, 8. You get the hint, just to make sure that you have the right amount of beads. Now, according to length, if you want a longer or a shorter bracelet, you can increase or decrease the amount of your base beads here, but it has to be an even number that you end up with so that your stitch will turn out right. Now this will make about a 7 3/4 inch bracelet depending upon the jump rings and the clasping that you use. Now I'm using Wire Guardians, and I'm using about, and it is about a 5mm round jump ring to put my clasping on. So you could use smaller jump rings if you need just a little bit less room, but you need your bracelet to be about a 1/4 of an inch bigger than you normally make to allow for the bulk of the bracelet, because the bracelet has a lot of bulk to it and that takes up room on your wrist. So what I am doing is the 70 beads, and it turns out just about right for me. So again, you can modify that to suit the size of your wrist. Now, what we're going to do, once we have our 70 beads and we've counted them, we are going to pick up 2 beads onto our needle. We're going to do a 2-drop peyote, the length of this bracelet, just one time. So what we're going to do is pick it up, hold on to it so that you can hold the first 4 beads in your fingers, like this. Pick up 2 onto your needle. Skip the first 2 beads and go into the second 2 beads on your piece here. Hold on to those 2 second beads that you're going through. You can let the other beads fall, it doesn't matter. But hold on to those 2 that you're going through. And then just pull your beads up and keep going until you're out of slack. And this is what you'll end up with. You'll start a nice little end of your 2-drop peyote here. So now what we're going to do is the entire length, just skipping 2 beads and going through 2 beads, adding 2 beads. So first, add 2 beads to your needle. Let me get you in a little bit closer here. So we're coming out of these 2 beads here. We're going to skip the next 2, have 2 on your needle, and then go through the next 2 after the 2 you're skipping, just like this. Then I hold on to it just to keep my beads in line nice and pull these down. And they'll line up right next to the double set of beads. Just like that. Now we're going to pick up or create a double set of beads is what I meant to say. So now we're coming out of these 2 beads. We're going to skip these 2, go into the next 2, hold on to those 2 that you're going through, and pull your thread until the new beads lay right next to the 2 you skipped, just like this. And we're just going to continue doing that. Now, if you get a lot of tension down here, you can adjust your stop bead a little bit so that things don't get really tight and bunched up. Or you can tighten it if they're too loose. So you can adjust your tension there. We're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. We're coming out of these 2. We're going to skip 2. We're going to go into the next 2. We're going to hold on to those 2 and pull. And this is what we end up with. Let's do one more, and then we will go to length off camera. We're coming out of 2, we're skipping 2, we're going into the next 2, holding on to those 2 we just went through, pulling the 2 new ones down to lay next to the 2 that we skipped. Just like that. And we're going to continue doing that. When you get all the way to the end, you will have 2 extra beads on the end. So you're just going to go all the way up to the 2 before the last 2. And then we will come back and we will address the end of the piece. Okay, so now I have gone the entire length doing my 2-drop peyote. And now I am coming out of the last 2 beads before the last 2 beads here. So you have nothing to actually go into at this point. So I'm going to show you how we're going to end this. Now just move your stop bead just a tiny bit and then pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. Now you're coming out of these 2 beads here. You're going to pick this up and go into the 2 beads on the very end from the direction or from the side of the stop bead. So you're going down into them like this and just pull this down around. Now pull on your tail, pull on your working thread and tighten that up, and then you're coming out of these 2 8/0s right here. Let me get you in even a little closer here. So we're coming out of these 2 8/0s. We're going to go into the 2 8/0s next to it, and we're going to secure this a little bit. So then go back into the 2 under the little stop bead here, and then come back on this side. Come back through. That way it's secure enough, you've got tension, nothing's falling apart, then you can take your stop bead off. Now to secure this further, otherwise the tail will not be secure, you need to take your working thread and your tail, and you need to cross your working thread over your tail, and then bring your tail through twice, and we're going to make a little surgeon's knot here. So bring this tail through twice. Perhaps. All right, let me do that again. So I'm just going to cross these threads and then bring my tail through twice. I don't know why this is so hard for me at the moment, but it truly seems to be a difficult task. So let me see if I can do this. Oh my land. Okay, so now once you have that through, just pull a knot down, and you will be tying right between the 2 beads here. Now you can see there's a thread bridge here. We're going to secure this a little bit further by going underneath this thread bridge with the needle, bring another loop, and then go through that loop and draw this down. Now you should be pretty secure, and you can just cut off this tail here, or you can draw your tail back through the 2 8/0s and cut it off down here too. That makes it a little bit more secure, but this should be fine at this point. Now we have to go back into these beads so we can work our way back around and put our ending on. So I'm going to go down into these 2 beads because I'm between the beads right now. I'm going to go down into 2, and then I'm going to go up into these 2 on this side, securing it a little further and positioning my needle so that I can now put on my wire guardian for the end of my bracelet. So now I am going to pick up 2 11/0s and my accent color 8/0. So I'm using the indigo on this one, and if you're doing the aqua, you may be using a turquoise or something like that. You can also just use any accent that you want. It doesn't have to match the color of the beads. So I have my 2 11/0s, and then I have my 8/0 here, and then I'm going to pick up one of my wire guardians, and I am going to go through one side of the wire guardian. So I will go through the little tube on this side here, like this, and then bring this down, and then I am going to position it on top of that 8/0 so that I can go through the other side of the wire guardian and then into the 8/0, and just the 8/0, ignore the 11/0s. Hold on to those beads, hold on to the wire guardian, and you can feel the thread slide down into that wire guardian. Pull it up tight against the 8/0 like this, and then close your wire guardian a little bit with a flat nose or a chain nose plier. So just squeeze it gently closed so that it fits over that 8/0 seed bead really nicely, like this. And then pick up 2 11/0 seed beads and go back into the 8/0s on the opposite side here. Just like this. Pull these down. Make sure your thread doesn't slip off that wire guardian like mine just did. So I'm going to put it back in the wire guardian. These wire guardians don't have a very deep divot and they want to slip really badly. So now I have my thread in the proper place. I'm coming out of these 2 8/0s. I'm going to cross over, go into the 8/0s on this side. I am then going to go up through the 2 11/0s. I'm going to go up through the 8/0, and then at a diagonal, I'm going to go through the wire guardian, just like this. The diagonal helps you get through these beads a little bit better. Then I'm going to go back into the wire guardian on this side, the 8/0, the 2 11/0s on the diagonal, and then down into the 2 8/0s beneath that, just like this. Now I'm going to hold on to that wire guardian, feel the thread slide down and into the divot there, just like that. Now we'll cross over and do that one more time. So through your wire guardian and secure it, and we'll come back and start our embellishments. Okay, so now I have secured my wire guardian and we're going to start some embellishments. The first one we're going to do is a little different than the rest that will do the length of the bracelet width. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up an 11/0, you're going to pick up an 8/0, and then you're going to pick up an 11/0. And I'm using my 8/0s in my accent color, so my frosted indigo. I am coming out of the bottom bead on this side here, the bottom 8/0. I'm going to drop my 3 beads down, and then I am going to cross over and go into, from the top down, the 8/0s on this side. So I'm coming out of the bottom here, I'm going through the 2 on this side from the top down like this. And the top is what I'm considering where my wire guardian is. So now I'm going to pull this through and it's going to lay across there diagonally, just like that. I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to pick up an 11/0. Then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 in my accent color and an 11/0. I'm coming out of the bottom of this 8/0 here. I'm going to go down from the top into the top 8/0 on the opposite side here and the one underneath it. Then I'm going to pull this down in a little diagonal, just like that. Now I'm going to go down into the 2 8/0 seed beads right here. So right underneath the double set that we just put our embellishment on, go straight through those 2. Now we're just going to do one side at a time, adding an embellishment right on top of these double sets. So we're going to pick up an 11/0 and then our accent 8/0 and then an 11/0. And we're going to go, so you can see what I've got, we're going to go right over the top of the double set and into the single set. So we'll go into the single set here, skipping the double set, pull our thread through, and just anchor that little embellishment right on top of the double set. Now, let me get in camera a little bit better here, maybe a little closer, and we'll do it one more time just so you can see. Pick up an 11/0, your accent 8/0, and an 11/0. Just like this. We're coming out of these 2 8/0s here. We're going to skip over the top of the double set here and go into the 2 here. So we're going to go directly into these 2. You can hold on to it and just pull your thread through and pop that right on top. Now we're going to do that the entire length. After you do each one, kind of straighten it out, and it might twist a little as we get to the end, and that's okay. Just try to keep it as straight as you can. Don't pull each embellishment so tight that it bunches up your base units. You want them to be on there with no slack, but you don't want them to be so tight that you start to distort the base of your bracelet. So let's do one more and then let's go to length. Pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. Skip the double set, go into the 2 beneath it, pull this through, straighten it out, kind of pull on it, straighten it out, make sure it's nice, and then go into the next one. And we'll continue doing that until we get to the very last one, and we will be back and I will show you how to end that and start your next side. Okay, so I have finished all of my embellishments all the way down. Now you'll see it's a little twisty and weird. I just straighten it out the best I possibly can. It'll get a little funny and awkward, but if you straighten it out the best you can, especially at this point, situating the thread inside so that things aren't bunched, then it's a little less confusing as we work away on the other side. It's not that it's totally confusing anyway, but it just keeps things a little bit more orderly if you do this. So straighten it out, kind of stretch it out a little bit, the best you can. Don't worry about it being perfect. And now we're coming out of these two beads here on the very end after putting this last embellishment on. We have one more double set, but we have nothing to anchor anything to. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up through the 8/0s on one set here. From the double 8/0s we're coming out of, these two here, we're going to come into this set here. And we're going to go ahead and put on our embellishment, and then we'll put on our wire guardian. Or, yeah, maybe we'll put on our wire guardian first. Might be a little less confusing. So pick up two 11/0s and accent color 8/0 and drop it down. And then grab a wire guardian and go through one side of the wire guardian like this. This wire guardian's kind of strange. And drop it down. Now I'm going to position this in my hand so that I can hold it a little bit better. Okay. It's like this. And I am going to go into this side of the wire guardian and into the 8/0 seed bead. Just like that. I'm going to hold onto the wire guardian between my thumb and my finger. I'm going to pull the thread and feel it go into that divot and then feel it slide down to the 8/0 as I pull on it. And then I'm going to close this wire guardian. And then I'm going to pick up two 11/0s and I'm going to go into the 8/0s on this side. And bring this down. Now I'm going to cross over and come up through the 8/0s, the two 11/0s, and the 8/0 and the wire guardian at a diagonal. And I'm going to pull this through. Just like that, and give it a little tug there. And then I'm going to go down on this side, go into the wire guardian, and then I'm going to cross over, go at a diagonal, go through all the beads on this side, and I can only seem to get through one of these 8/0s. So I'm just going to go through that 8/0, get my thread down in the wire guardian, go back into this 8/0, and you can go ahead and cross over and do that one more time if you'd like. To keep this video a little shorter, we're just going to move on at this point. But you can pause here and you can sew through it one more time if you feel more secure. Pick up an 11/0, pick up an accent 8/0, and then pick up an 11/0. We are going to put an embellishment over the top of this last double set here. So how we're going to do that is we're coming out of this bottom one right here, this double set of 8/0s. We're going to go through the top 8/0 on the opposite side and the 8/0 beneath it, like this. And we're going to pull this through. Pull that down on top, turn your piece over. Make sure that front embellishment is tight. And then grab an 11/0 and your accent 8/0 and your 11/0. And now you're coming out of the bottom on this side here. We're going to go into the top on the opposite side. So go through both the beads here. Draw this down over the top of that double set. Make sure that there's no slack. And now make sure you're on the side that does not have your previous embellishment on with your 11 O's. Just kind of turn it over. Go through the double or the 11 or the 8 O's that are on top of each other underneath the double set here. Go through these two right here and then begin your embellishment again. So pick up an 11 O, an 8 O, and an 11 O, and then skip the double set, go into the next two in the straight set, and pull. Now, since this can be kind of twisted, just keep following around. You know which side doesn't have your embellishment, and that's what you're going to need to put your embellishment on. So if you need to kind of turn it and readjust as you go down, just go ahead and do that and keep working your way down, putting your beads on. Now mine didn't twist too badly this time, but sometimes it can twist pretty good when you're doing these embellishments. So you just want to make sure that you untwist it and just work your way all the way down the entire piece, putting on your embellishment. And then once you have done that, you're all the way down to the end, or this one right here before the double set. We'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I have done my entire embellishment. I'm coming out of the last two 11 O's before I get to the unit that has my clasping on it. So at this point, you can just put clasp on it and call it done too, if you would like. This makes a really pretty bracelet. I did a couple in a previous tutorial to this point with crystals where the 8O is, but I want you to see that it's just as pretty with just an 8O too. So you can do that and be finished. Put on your clasping on your jump rings and your clasping, and you're done. But here we're coming out right out of these two 8 O's right here. So I put on my last embellishment. I'm coming out of the two straight 8 O's. I'm going to go up into the two side ones here, the two 8 O's right underneath my clasping, and I'm just going to turn myself around by going through the clasping one more time. So I'm going through these two 8 O's, I'm going through the two 11 O's here. Then I'm going to go up through this 8 O, then I'm going to go into the wire guardian here on the side. See if I can get in there. Then I'm going to go into the other side of the wire guardian and the 8 O and exit right here. And then I'm going to push my needle through. I'm going to position my fingers so that the thread will slide through and go into the top of the wire guardian. Go into the two 11 O's on this side, underneath the 8 O, and the two 8 O's underneath that, underneath the 11 O's right here. So now I am positioned to start my embellishments on the side here. So I'm going to lay it out to where the two side 8 O's are laying towards me. That way I can embellish between the sets of double 8 O's here. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to use my round beads now, and I'm going to use my leaf beads. I'm going to do a few this way because that's how we're going to do our bag beads. And then I'm going to do a couple of the other beads that I have used in my other designs here, so that like this one and this one that's on my wrist, so that you can see how to do this too if you do not have the petal beads. So we're going to start first with an 11 O and a round bead and an 11-0, and 4mm rounds work a little bit better. These ones in the amber bag were a little smaller than these ones in the sapphire bag, but they work. But if you would like to use something else, a 4mm round works perfect. So we're going to go from this set into this set with our 11-0 round bead and 11-0. Now, try to keep it from twisting too much because it gets confusing. So try to keep the thing straight here. And now we have our first little embellishment on the side. To put our petal bead on, you will see the petal bead is scooped on one side and it's domed on the other side. We're going to go through the domed side first. So you're going to pick up an 11-0 and then you're going to go through the domed side of the petal bead and you're going to bring this down to your piece. And then once it's laying down against your piece, pick up an 11-0 and go back through the front here, the scoop side. And just pull this through. The best you can, just like that. And then pick up, let me get you in closer. Pick up an 11-0 and then go through the next set of 8-0s here. Now once you pull this 11-0 down, you have to give it a little tug, make sure it's nice and neat and arranged, and that's what that should look like. Let's do this again. Now we're going to alternate, so we're going to put on a 4mm round, an 11-0, a round, and an 11-0, and we're going to slide into the next set of 8-0s. So we're coming out here, we're going to go into here. Try not to let your units twist so that you're going through the opposite side. Try to stay on the same side the best you can here. And that's our next. I try to pull it kind of tightly. It'll kind of distort your bracelet a little bit, but you want to make sure that they're down okay. Now this one looks a little loose, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one here until I can tighten up this one, and then I'm going to pull this one and tighten up this one. So if you get any slack, you can correct it this way, just like that. Now let's do another petal bead. So we're going to pick up an 11-0 and then we're going to go through the domed side of the petal bead. We're going to bring it down to where the scooped side is facing us. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 and we're going to go through it again. Just go through the hole, and things are going to get all wobbly and weird. That's okay. So draw it down the best you can. And here, if you get too far away, pick up the 11-0, pull on your working thread, and you can draw it down to your bracelet nicely. Then you're going to pick up an 11-0, and you're going to go through the next set of 8-0s. Draw the thread through and then give a nice little tug, arrange it so it looks good, and then tighten it some more so you have good tension. And then you'll work through with your round bead and you'll continue putting on your petal beads. So you'll go round petal, all the way to the end. Now, if you're using something other than petal beads, like if you have a top drilled bead. Now these top drilled crystals I have them in little packages of 20, which is plenty for one of these bracelets. They're a little big. You can use something a little smaller top drilled and that would work great too. And all you have to do for a top drilled bead is pick up an 11-0, go through the hole in your top drill, and then pick up an 11-0, drop these down to your piece, and then go through the next set of 8-0s. So ideally you'd have a round bead here and then you'd have your top drill, and you just position it. You can get it nice and tight once you put your next bead on. So then you do a round bead. Let me back up just a little bit here. So that's how you do a top drill. Now let's say that you want to do a 6mm round or a bicone or something like that. Let me pull this out. And, or a pearl or anything that's round. I'm going to use one of these top drill, or not top drilled, I'm sorry. I'm going to use an English cut 6mm round. I have an 11/0 already on there. So you'll pick up an 11/0, then you'll pick up your bead and drop it down. Then you'll pick up another 11/0 onto your needle and go back through your bead. Hold on to the bracelet, hold on to the bead, pull this down, just like that. Then pick up an 11/0 and go into the next double set of 8/0s. Then you could do your little 4mm round. So like on this one, I did a 4mm round pearl, and then I did my fringing through my English cut. And then I did a 4mm round pearl, so I just alternated with 4mm rounds. And this is a plum luster, I think, and these are the marbled English cut. So you can do that also. You can use any beads you want. You can do the same fringing through a bicone like this. So this can be as different as you want it to be. You can get into your stash and you can do it a million different ways. So now I have to rearrange everything. I've got mine all bungled up, and then I'm just going to continue working down. I'll turn this bead back around. He's in the wrong position. And I'll just continue working down, putting on my round bead and then my leaf bead and then my round bead. And when I get all the way to the end, I'll show you how to turn around and do the other side. Okay, so now you can see that I have done one entire side of all my embellishments, my petal beads and my round beads. I'm coming out here of the 8/0 seed beads, and I have to work my way around back down into these 8/0s over here so that I can do this side. So let me get you in close. I am coming out of, I actually went up into the two 8/0s on the side here already, because that's how we have to come through for our last embellishment. So what I'm going to do is you can go up through your clasping again, or you can just go straight across into your 8/0s. So let me see if I want to go through my clasping. Now I think I'm just going to go straight across into my 8/0s on this side. So let me show you. I'm coming out of the 8/0s on this side of the bracelet. Here, after putting on this round one, I'm hopping over into the 8/0s on this side now. And I'm just going to turn my bracelet around and come through. Okay, so now my embellishments on this side lay this way, so I'm going to try to position it to where I can work through this side and not mess up that side. So now I'm coming through right here. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0, and I'm going to pick up a leaf bead this time because of the fact that I have a round bead on that side. I'm going to alternate again, but I'm going to do the opposite of what I did on the other side. So I'm going to pick up a leaf bead. So I'm going to go through the the domed side. I'm going to pick up an 11/0, go through the domed side of the petal, have the scooped side up, and then I'm going to, let me get in camera here. And I'm going to pick up an 11/0. And I'm going to go through the scooped side here again. And it's easier if you just pick your little piece up, hold on to that, pull that all through until it's nice and tight. If you need to pick up that 11/0 again, that's fine. This was going really smoothly until I turn on the camera, then it's gotta give me grief. So now I've gone around, and I'm going to go back into the next set with an 11/0. So I've got two 11/0s. I don't need two 11/0s. And go into this side. And I'll do one more of those since that was so muddled up for you. Get him in position. Okay, that's a little better. All right. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and a round bead and an 11-0 and slide into the next one. Okay, let's do one more leaf just to make sure that I haven't confused the heck out of you. So we're going to pick up an 11-0, go through the back side of the petal bead, the domed side, drop this down to your piece. Turn it and position it. Pick up an 11-0 and go back through. If you hold on to it here, just like this, you can pull it through pretty good and not have all the issues I had with the previous one. Then I'm just going to pick up an 11-0 and I'm going to go into the next 2 8-0s and pull this through. And that's how you continue doing that. And then once we get done, we'll lay it all out, position everything pretty, and let it just kind of be bobbly. But that's what that looks like so far. So I'm going to continue working through doing my alternating of my round and my leaf bead or my petal beads until I get to the end. Once I get to the end, I'll show you how to tie off. We'll put on our clasping and we'll call it good. So I have put all my leaf beads on. Now these, they can kind of curl under the bracelet and look kind of strange. So when we get all done, we'll just puff them out and just mess them up and they'll be all bobbly. You can turn them different directions. We just put them all on the same direction as we were doing it to make sure that we were getting them on there properly. But we can turn them around and make them all funny like I did here, all different directions, and they won't be so linear after we get done here. So what we're going to do now, I put on my last bead here, my last fringe with my leaf bead, and I'm coming up through these 2 8-0s after putting it on, and I'm just going to pull tight, make sure my embellishment is good, and I am going to go between the 8-0 and the double set of 8-0s here. I'm trying to get my needle through them. Right here. So let me get you really close. I'm just trying to go between the 8-0s and the double set here. And I'm going to make a loop, making sure that I draw all pieces of the thread up between those beads here. Once I've made my loop, I will go through it and I will just draw the thread down between the beads, between the 8-0 and 11-0 there, to make sure that it's nice and clean and tucked down between those beads. And then I can go back into the beads, or I can cross over. Maybe I'll cross over. I'll cross over to the 8-0s over here. So everything's very tight now, but we need to tie off and we need to secure. So I'm coming from these 8-0s straight across into these 8-0s now, and I'm going to pull this down. And then between the 8-0 and the double set of 8-0s and the single set of 8-0s, I'm going to grab this thread ridge again. And I'm going to go between the beads, try not to catch too many other things, just between those beads, and tie another knot. And then I can slide down a couple more beads and just cut off my thread. You can knot as much as you want. You can sew through your fringes. You can do whatever it is that you want to do to make this secure. But here is where I am going to end it. So I'm going to grab this and remove my thread. Now, like I said, you can twist it, you can bobble it, you can do whatever you want. Lay it out. And you can see you just get a really nice little bobbly look like this. And then we're just going to grab some jump rings and put on the clasping. I'll show you the one I made for the amber and aqua bag and puff him out. I made this one a little tighter. I think I pulled everything a little tighter. This one's a little looser. But anyway, that's what it will look like in the amber and aqua bag, and this is what it looks like in the sapphire bag. I think they're both really pretty. I'll show you what it looks like on in a minute. But first, let's open up some jump rings. And let me just find where the split is. I'll put a plier on one side, grab another one here, and put a plier on the other side and twist it open. I'm going to put it through the wire guardian, and then I'm going to put my clasp on and close the jump ring. And you will do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open a jump ring, put this on, and then I'm going to put the bracelets on and come back and show you what they look like. Okay, so let me move my ugly sweatshirt out of the way. This is my downstairs dungeon jacket. It gets cold down here. But that's what they look like. I think they're really very pretty. Let me back off a little bit more so you can see them from a distance. And this is what the clasping looks like. And this is what they look like in the front. And I'll get you a little closer so you can see how pretty it lays. And like I said, you could just let them be all bobbly. They look really pretty. And I hope you liked this tutorial. And if you did, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button and perhaps the notification bell so we can continue making pieces together. Okay, bye-bye.